The Prime Minister has defended the decision to reimpose a lockdown on the city of Leicester, following criticism that the government's handling of the crisis has created confusion and alarm, and that key questions about the measures haven't been answered. The measures were announced last night because of a surge in cases of coronavirus in the city, while lockdowns in the rest of England are to be further relaxed on Saturday. Schools in Leicester are to be shut to most children, and non-essential shops have closed again for at least 2 weeks. Only essential travel to and from the city is allowed. Our correspondent Sean Lloyd has the latest.
Returning to lockdown and a return to more stringent conditions after a spike in cases across the city of Leicester. Non-essential businesses like this one, which had been trading, were told to close today.
All the shops have got the PPE ready. We're all prepared. We've got the COVID secure checks. We've got hand sanitisers everywhere. This city is just being picked on.
10% of all new cases of the virus in England recorded over the past week have been here, and that's caused concern. Local lockdown means only essential shops can trade, and pubs and restaurants won't reopen here on Saturday, unlike in other parts of England. The lockdown zone is wider than the city centre. The red line on this map includes some of the greater Leicester suburbs. And tonight, a warning from one of those who survived the virus himself, but sadly lost his father to it.
Don't take it lightly. Think of it as an alien invasion. You don't know who is affected. But once you're affected, it's a lottery ticket as to what symptoms you'll get. But if you get it severe, you'll regret it.
Schools will also be affected. From Thursday, they'll be closed to all but vulnerable pupils and those from key worker families.
You just think that things are going back to normal, and then you get the rug pulled out from underneath you again.
I'm shocked that Leicester's in this situation, I'd rather he be at school.
COVID-19 is spreading 3 times faster here than anywhere else. No single cause for the spike has been identified, and the people of Leicester haven't yet been told when their lockdown will end. Extra testing centres are being introduced as part of the measures to try to curb the rise in cases, and authorities are focusing on identifying so-called hotspots.
We are now getting at that point where we are down to local areas, so that means that we can have a real good attempt to try and to make sure that we're tailoring our messages and we're providing the testing resources that are needed.
Residents are being told to only travel where necessary, although how that will be enforced is still unclear. The body representing officers, the Police Federation, has asked the government for clarity. On the streets, local people were still taking it all in.
Just fed up with it now. I didn't expect it to happen again.
I've been in this country for 50 years. This is the first time I've seen, and people are still not keeping the distance.
I welcome the decision, but I feel that it should be much more stricter.
Leicester tonight finds itself in the spotlight. People living here being asked to wait longer for their freedoms. Employers forced to shut their doors again are being told they'll be able to re-furlough their staff if they've used the scheme before. But many questions remain, and the measures being imposed are not being ruled out elsewhere should the need arise in the future. Sean Lloyd, BBC News, Leicester.
So as Sean was asking there, why has there been such a sharp rise in cases in Leicester? And is this local lockdown the start of a pattern that could be repeated in towns and cities across the UK over coming months? Our science editor David Schuckman has this analysis.
A startling glimpse into a new phase in this crisis as a city of 300,000 people has to go back into lockdown. So why is Leicester seeing stricter measures than the rest of the country? Well, testing has revealed a spike in cases. Ministers say numbers are 3 times higher than anywhere else. The rise was first detected more than a week ago, so was the response quick enough?
I think if we've been able to identify early on that there was an increased number of cases, potentially at odds with the downward national trend, then the contact tracing and isolating could have been done at a much more rapid rate, and that would have prevented some of this retreat that we're seeing now in terms of the loosening up of restrictions.
So what are the causes of the new infections? Like any city, Leicester is bound to have more social interaction than smaller places, more chances for the virus to spread. Researchers are studying many different factors.
The areas that have been affected much more so in Leicester are inner city areas. They have high levels of ethnic diversity, crowded housing, and pockets of deprivation. And when you put all those three things together, you're much more likely to get virus transmission because the virus itself hasn't changed. And so what it wants is people to meet and to congregate and for contact to happen.
And what's the strategy behind this local lockdown? Well, the aim is to focus on the outbreaks like in Leicester and allow the rest of the country to relax the lockdown measures. So last month at Western General Hospital in Somerset, there was a high number of cases and they stopped admissions. 2 weeks ago, more than 100 staff tested positive at a meat processing plant in West Yorkshire. And there was another smaller outbreak at a meat plant in the West Midlands. And then more than 200 people tested positive at a chicken processing factory in Anglesey. The hope is to spot these outbreaks and intervene before they can spread any further. This is now the pattern in Germany and many other countries, with whole communities told to lock down whenever new cases are found. It's a difficult process and takes constant vigilance. So what's happening in Leicester is part of a new normality. And because the virus is still active, scenes like this are bound to be repeated in other towns and cities. David Shukman, BBC News.
Let's go live to Leicester tonight, and our correspondent there is Navtej Johal. Navtej, what's your sense there of local opinion as far as this new lockdown is concerned?
Well, Hugh, there is a lot of pressure on this city and its leaders tonight to ensure that people do follow the guidelines. My impression is that there is general acceptance, it seems, over the last 24 hours or so of these measures. That acceptance, though, is mingled with some frustration too. Frustration over the fact that no city would want this title to be the first in the country to be placed under a local lockdown. Having said all that, there will be some people who might be tempted on Saturday to make the short journey from here to the likes of Loughborough, Nottingham or Birmingham as pubs, restaurants and hair salons reopen everywhere else. But overall, people seem to be saying better safe than sorry. Now, I've spent most of today with the Mayor of Leicester, Sir Peter Soulsby, who told me that he is determined to see the restrictions on Leicester be released in 2 weeks' time. And the only way to do that is to ensure that people follow the guidelines as strictly as possible. And the public health team here and the Mayor have both said that they have full confidence that the people of Leicester will do that.
Navtej, once again, many thanks. Navtej Johal, our correspondent there in Leicester.